State, you recognize our jury?
Yes, sir.
Defense, you recognize our jury?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All can be seated. Members of the jury, again, you could, once seated, raise your hands to confirm that you complied with the court's instructions during our last break. Record reflect all hands have been raised. Mr. Owens, you may continue with your inquiry, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Boone, so I think we left off. You had called your ex-husband?
Yes.
All right. After you called your ex-husband, what happened after that?
I ended up falling asleep.
Okay. Do you remember waking up the next morning?
Yes.
Did you sleep in?
Not intentionally.
Okay. But you didn't get up at 8 o'clock, did you?
No.
Did you wake up closer to noon?
I believe so, yes.
Did you check the time?
No.
Now, did you hear your phone ringing?
Yes, my phone was ringing.
And did you answer it right away?
No.
Do you know approximately how many times it rang before you answered it?
I believe the call was about 3 times.
Did you know who was calling?
I figured it was my ex-husband.
And why would he be calling?
To make sure that I was still on schedule to pick up our son.
At 3 that afternoon?
Correct.
And he goes to school there close by?
Yes.
All right. When you woke up, did you stay in bed for a while?
For a little while, yes.
Or tell the jury what happened when you got up.
I knew it was my ex-husband calling repeatedly. I didn't answer right away because one of our problems is that he doesn't understand that I'm doing things around the apartment and looking for jobs and so on and so forth. So I inevitably just let it ring, and I laid in the bed, and I figured that George was downstairs either drinking or looking for jobs, or may have just left. And so eventually I decided to get out of the bed and start moving to go downstairs. I was motivated enough to go downstairs, and when I went downstairs, it was very quiet. So I had the understanding, I believed that he had left. And
Did you check to see if where would he be looking for a job at?
usually on the couch, he would have my son's laptop, and he and I, which we would share.
Y'all
To
only
look for
have
jobs.
the son's laptop?
Correct.
And the TV was not working at this time?
The TV was not there.
So you thought he would be in the living room on the laptop?
Yes.
He was not there?
No.
Where else did you look for him?
I looked on the back porch. I went through the front door to see if my car was there, thinking maybe he had taken my car. I checked the bathroom, and when I was checking the bathroom, I saw the suitcase, and I remembered about the night prior, and I unzipped the suitcase
Let me
and
stop you there. You said you were in the bathroom when you saw the suitcase, or coming out of the bathroom?
know where our bathroom is. I would have to go to the bathroom here, and then when I turned around, I noticed the suitcase, and I remembered.
How did you feel when you saw the suitcase?
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before.
Describe it for the jury.
I guess it was I was aghast, and I just can't describe the feeling.
Bless you.
It was terror to
Bless you.
a certain degree.
I'm sorry, say that again now?
It was terror to a certain degree. I just can't describe it in words, the feeling of remembering. And then he was still in there.
So what did you do?
I immediately unzipped the suitcase, and I was screaming, "George, George, George," and I was shaking him, and I pulled him out, and I stretched him out flat, and then I began instantly trying to do CPR, and then was trying to look for a pulse or a breath or just anything, and was just screaming his name over and over and over again, and come on, George, and I continued CPR, and I continued CPR, and he was gurgling, and
What color was he?
what color was he?
Yes.
He was purple.
At some point, did you call your ex-husband?
Yes, when he started to gurgle, and I knew that my ex-husband is notorious for bringing my son over in very inopportune times when George is possibly drunk or doing things not appropriate for my son to see. And I just didn't know what to do. It was just a quick knee-jerk reaction. Ryan was kind of my go-to person because of my family being deceased, and I don't have anyone else that I can call. And I just wanted to ensure that he would not bring my son over in the process of all of this at some point.
So you called him.
I called him.
Did you ask him what to do? Or did you just tell him to come over?
I just told him to come over.
Did you tell him that you felt like George was dead?
Yes, I did.
And how far, you said it's 5 minutes from house to house?
Yes.
Did you call him back?
Yes, because he was taking so long. It felt the seconds were hours. Yes. I'm still doing CPR at the same time in the process of it. I'm
Yeah.
doing CPR, I don't know how many times.
Did he get there?
Yes,
Did he walk in?
yes,
Did he walk out?
yes.
What did he tell you to do?
Call 911.
What did you do?
I called 911.
Is that the recording we've heard here in this trial?
Yes.
Did you love George?
To this day.
Why did you love him?
George was very passionate. George was a very real person. George was nice to me on the good days. George complimented me. George and I were two bodies with one soul, he and I would always say. I don't believe that I've ever had a connection with anyone like I have with George.
Did you have that connection with your ex-husband?
I did not,
Was it even close?
no.
George has some good traits, doesn't he?
Very much.
Did George have some bad traits?
He did.
Did you drink too much?
I did.
Did George drink too much?
Yes.
Tell the jury about George's drinking.
If George was able to, he would drink from sunup to sundown. And me having my son and trying to work and maintain the home and just have a life, a normal life as best as I could, somehow that upset George. And because I had a certain dollar amount from my divorce settlement, at one point it was from wine we could afford vodka, so a lot of the times he would take my car and my debit card and go buy the large, we call them handles, of vodka, which is the big bottle. And sometimes he would finish that all off on his own throughout an entire period of a day into an evening. That's honestly where I thought that he was going to be that morning when I came downstairs, because he's notorious for just automatically already being outside from drinking all the time.
All right. And you said you have an alcohol problem. George has an alcohol problem.
Yes.
How did George's drinking adversely affect you?
It would debilitate my ability to help him the way that I was always trying to help him, because it would be one good day, a day of survival, and then it would be another day where I'm having to peel him off of me and call 911.
Why would he get that way? Tell us his pattern as it relates to drinking and then.
Object.
Approach. Objections overruled for now.
You're already together 3.5 years.
Yes.
Is there times when he would get to a state of intoxication where he would get violent against you?
Quite often.
Judge, can I approach the witness?
Yes, as long as you show it to the state first, please.
I'm going to show you defense exhibit for identification P. It's 2 photographs. Could you look at those photographs and see if you recognize those?
I do.
Are those 2 pictures of your body?
Yes,
Do they show injuries to your body?
yes,
Were those injuries caused by Jorge Torres?
yes,
Are those photographs a fair and accurate depiction of the injuries you sustained at the hands of Jorge Torres?
on this occurrence, yes.
Do you remember this occurrence?
I don't, it was so often.
You don't remember a specific date,
I don't,
but you're sure that that's you?
yes.
Is that the injuries that he, what's the injury to the rib cage?
I don't remember specifically. These may be the pictures. So, when we used to go over to his brother's house, one of his brothers and his,
Objection. Non-responsive.
Sustained.
You don't have to answer the question.
Oh.
Just a minute. Do you know what happened to, did George cause these injuries?
yes,
All right. Were y'all both drinking at that time?
I don't remember on this instance.
Judge, I'd like to move this exhibit into evidence.
Okay.
All right, what was pre-marked as P will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 2.
I'm not sure I know how I heard this.
Mr. Owens, may I give Mr. Tackett just a number, please? Thank you.
Mr. J, would you be so kind? Thank you.
And I need to ask permission to publish it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Henderson.
You may do so.
Right, this is Maxwell, Judge.
Looks like I think there's a wheel on the top where you can use to, there you go.
Ms. Boone, is that you?
Yes,
Are those injuries to your arm?
yes,
Were they caused by Jorge Torres?
yes,
And during the same incident, is this you?
yes,
Is that an injury or bruise to your ribcage area
yes,
and your arm?
yes,
I'll show you identification, defense identification Q. See if you recognize that photograph.
yes,
Is that your thigh?
yes,
Okay. Do you remember this incident?
yes.
Can you tell the jury what happened?
I wanted to take my dogs for a walk and get off of the back porch.
Were y'all drinking?
Yes. And he was upset that I would rather go walk my dogs than sit there and continue to drink. So he slapped my thigh as hard as he possibly could and said that you're not going anywhere. And it was a good smack on my thigh.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the wound that you suffered as a result of Jorge Torres slapping you on the thigh?
Yes.
Judge, I'd like to offer Q in evidence.
No objection.
What was pre-marked as Q will be received into evidence without objection as Defense 3. You may, sir.
And for the jury's sake, is this the photograph you just mentioned?
Yes.
I'm going to show you identification, defense identification S. See if you recognize that photograph.
I do.
Is that your hand?
Yes.
Is that your blood on your hand?
Yes, it is.
Is that you standing, looks like in a room with flip-flops?
This is in the kitchen at Brian's house.
Okay, what happened there?
So George was very drunk, and I wanted to leave, and he's notorious for taking my car keys and putting them around his neck, and my phone in his crotch area, and telling me to come get them. And I really wanted to leave because of how drunk, and I knew the escalation of his anger. I didn't want to be there when it was at its peak. So I tried to take my keys from around him because he kept taunting me to take my keys, come get your keys. And so I attempted to go and get my keys. And so he ended up getting a butcher knife. And I had an opportunity to call Brian to come and help me, to please come pick me up, to come get me. And of course, he brings my son with him. And so I'm in the parking lot asking Brian to please help me get my car keys away from him, and there's neighbors, and it's a scene at this point. And George comes to the doorway of my townhome wielding the butcher knife, saying that, do I curse?
Yeah.
That no one's going to take her fucking keys, no one's gonna fucking come into this house, and he's waving the butcher knife. And I walked up to him, and I just wanted to leave, and my little son, who was, I believe, 7 or 8 at the time, just is screaming, give mommy her keys, give mommy her keys, let her leave. Brian was even trying to negotiate with him, saying, please, you know she'll come back, just let her leave. So I went up to try and take the keys from him, and he was pulling on them, and I ended up pulling harder. And he pulled them back again to try to pull me in the house, and I pulled them even harder, and it ripped my finger. And at one point, I had lost the fingernail, and the tip of my pinky was severely gashed.
Judge, I'd like to offer this demand.
No objection.
What was it pre-marked as, Counselor?
Looks like S, but not important.
What was pre-marked as defense S will be received into evidence without objection as defense 4.
Ms. Boone, for the jury's sake, is this the picture you were referring to? Is that the nail? Was it on? Still on?
I believe so, yes.
Now I'm showing you a composite identification L, 2 photographs. Can you look at those photographs and tell the jury what they are?
I wanted to eat, and while he was drinking, went and made myself, as quickly as I possibly could, a microwave bowl of, I believe it was broccoli and cheddar soup. And I didn't get it out enough time, and he came up behind me and he slapped it out of my hand. And it was a 2nd-degree burn. I went to the hospital for it.
Are those fair and accurate depictions of the injury, the burn to your thigh?
Yes.
We'd like to offer identification L in evidence.
No objection.
What was pre-marked as L will be received into evidence without objection as defense 5.
Permission.
Yes, sir.
You had to go to the hospital as a result of these injuries to your thigh?
Yes. It was
Okay.
extremely
Is this-
painful.
Is that a depiction of the burn?
Yes.
Is that your thigh
My thigh, yes.
and your knee?
Yes.
showing you composite exhibit for identification K, 4 photographs. Did you look at those, all 4, before commenting? This is a longer story, isn't it? Go ahead and tell.
So George stabbed me in my leg. I almost bled to death.
All right, well, let's go back and explain what led up to that.
I thought it would be nice to cook a nice steak dinner. We don't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I thought it would be special to make a steak dinner and make potato and go above the normal whatever's left over in the refrigerator. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and George is drinking the entire time, and on the back porch.
You were drinking as well, were you not?
I was drinking. He was on the back porch while I was in the house and I was cooking. And it was one of those where maybe if I start making dinner now, it will be over at a particular time and we can go to bed at a reasonable time. And I even put it in the bedroom and had a movie set up for us to watch. So it would just kind of be dinner in bed. And then he came upstairs and saw that I had made the steak dinner, and I don't know how to describe how drunk he was, but it definitely was not George. And had him come lay on the bed, sit on the bed, and, you know, put the, I got the dogs out, and I presented him with the steak dinner, and sat down and was getting ready to start playing the movie. And he starts being very rude and cursing the steak and finding fault with it. And then, you know, I'm having to encourage him to eat. You know, if you want me to cut it up for you, I will cut it up for you. Did you want some more sour cream for your potato? What can I do to make you happier? And then he started to pull on me and kept saying that, excuse me, that I just want to fuck you on the steak and fuck you on the potatoes. And I took offense to that, and I kept trying to encourage him to eat. I started to
Was
eat.
this just him really drunk and saying nonsense?
I don't know why he was so angry that day. I don't know if it's because I got steak. I don't know. Most of the time, I don't know the reason why. I couldn't take it anymore. Obviously, I was not going to be able to eat, so I started to crawl off of the bed to leave, just the bedroom. And he told me again that I'm not going anywhere, and he stabbed me in my leg, and it crunched. You could hear a noise that it made, and blood just started to come out of my leg, just like a fountain. So I got off of the bed. He's starting to freak out, and grabbed me a towel. I got a wet towel, and I'm sitting here holding the towel, and it's increasingly becoming even more and more saturated by the minute. It's just minutes. So I'm going through towels and towels, and I said, George, I think I need to go to the hospital. This is not stopping to bleed. This is serious. And he got on his knees and begged me, please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. And inevitably, he went and got my car keys and put them around his neck again, and my cell phone. So I was not able to call anyone, and I wasn't able to leave in my car. So I figured I would just go downstairs, and I'm just going to go downstairs. And I had propped my foot up on the glass table that we had, and blood is just everywhere. Blood is everywhere. I can't keep up with the amount of blood, and I'm starting to feel very weak and really weird. And he comes downstairs, and he's still begging me, please don't call 911, please don't call 911. I kept telling him, there's something, this is serious, this is something. because he knew that he would probably get arrested or something bad would happen to him. So I couldn't take him anymore. He was just all over me and just, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding very badly, and he's having me try to console him. And I kept telling him, please, I need to call 911, please. And I said, okay, just give me a moment. And I crawled upstairs to my son's bathroom, which is the furthest bathroom away from everything. And I remember holding onto the sink. And I looked into the mirror, and my lips were blue. And I knew I needed help. I needed help. And he came upstairs looking frantic for me, calling my name. And then I turned to him and I said, please, I'm going to die. I've lost a lot of blood. There's something wrong. My lips are blue. Please, please, we don't have to call an ambulance. If you could just take me, I'll drive whatever I can do, please, to go to the hospital for this. And he said that before anything happens, I had to concoct a story in order for him to not be arrested or be in trouble when we did inevitably get to the hospital. So I'm sitting there with this blood-soaked towel with blue lips, trying to come up with a story of what I can tell them when I go down there so he's not in trouble, and telling him that it's okay. And I came up with the story of that we were sword fighting silly after drinking with our steak knives, and he accidentally punctured my leg. And from there,
How did you get to the hospital?
originally, he told me to drive, and because of the amount of alcohol that he drank, and I couldn't. So he got into the driver's seat and drove me, and the entire time he's barking at me to make sure that I get the story straight. We're sword fighting, okay? We were drunk,
Did you go to
being
the
silly.
emergency room?
Yes,
All right, and did you get treated there?
yes.
All right.
I was bloody, and
All right, let me show you the photograph. Can I show you these? All right, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the injury to your leg?
yes, I had to go to 2 different hospitals for it.
And you lied to medical personnel about how this happened?
Yes, they brought in sheriffs and everything.
Was it consistent with, they brought in sheriffs? Did you have to answer to the law enforcement officer?
Yes,
Did you stick with the story that you and George had agreed?
I did.
Judge, I'd like to offer this composite exhibit.
No objection.
What was pre-marked as K will be received into evidence without objection as Defendant 6. You may publish, sir.
Thank you. And is this you at the hospital?
Yes.
Is this the stab wound to your leg?
Yes. My foot.
Is this a close-up of the stab wound?
Yes.
And was that, did you hurt your foot?
No, due to the injury, I had other problems with the surgery.
Okay. But you eventually recovered?
Eventually, yes.
Do you have a scar to that effect?
I do.
Judge, can you step down?
Mr. J,
No objection.
you may. There's a lock, sir. Out.
All right, I don't know how best to do this, Judge, because we've got this bar.
They can probably see it from there.
Is this the injury here? Looks like there's an indention. All right, I'm showing you identification T. You recognize that photograph?
I do. Yes.
All right. Looks like you've got an injury to your lip and to your face. Do you recall this event?
I was trying to sleep, and
Have y'all been drinking?
I'm not sure. I know that he had been drinking. This was one of the instances where I would go upstairs to try to go to sleep. And
But
he-
y'all drank together a lot, did you not?
Sometimes, yes.
But there were times where he wanted to stay up and continue to drink and you wanted to go to bed.
Many times, yes.
You were done, he was not.
Correct.
Was that one of these times?
Yes.
So tell us what happened.
I'm sleeping in the bed, sound asleep, and he comes into the room and grabs me by my hair a lot of the times. And from here, he scratched me from trying to grab me, and then grabbed my hair and pulled me off of the bed, and then raked my face across the carpet. These are carpet burns.
To your lips?
Yes.
What about to the, looks like the eyebrow area?
That's from where from grabbing me, scratched me, and got a hold of me by my hair.
Why was he mad at you?
Because I wasn't downstairs with him
He wanted you to be drinking with him?
all the time.
All right, I'd like to introduce identification T in evidence.
What was pre-marked as T will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 7.
Oh, permission, Paul.
You may, sir.
Do you see the injury between the eyes and the injury to the lip,
Yes,
as you described?
yes, and then the blood going down my eye, yes.
Showing you what has been marked as exhibit for identification, or defense exhibit. You for identification.
Yes,
Can you describe that photograph?
I can.
Go ahead.
This was the first time that I ever called 911. George and I had gone to a bar across the street within walking distance, and at some point, I asked a guy, or he asked me, somehow or another, it was over a cigarette. And he left, and I didn't know where he went, and the bartender said, oh, he left. He took your car and he left. So,
Why would he do that?
well, I found out when I got home, it was because I spoke to another man. And so I paid the tab and I walked home, and he's sitting on the back porch with the handle of vodka, and I was walking on eggshells and terrified and kind of treaded lightly when I came in, and he acted all natural and fine. So I didn't know the reason why that he had just gotten up and left with my car. So then he calls me a whore, and then he calls me a slut, and then he calls me a cunt, and gets up and pushes me. And he pushed me with both of his hands so hard that we have this little area where our washer and dryer is, and there are metal doors that are on it. And he pushed me into the metal door. And then I fell back, and he got his knees on top of me, on my arms here, so I was pinned down, and was starting to strangle me, and hit my head up against the metal closet over and over and over and over and over it again, and calling me a fucking whore, and you're such a slut, and fuck you, and everything. And my tongue was flopping out of my mouth, and I thought I was going to bite my tongue off, and because of the amount of noise, I guess, my head was making on the metal door, he slid me down and got back on me, and then started to strangle me again. And it was on, we have carpet, but it's like concrete. And I was able to get my arms out from underneath and grab his throat and get him off of me. So I got him off of me and I pushed him off, and he came up and he goes, "You fucking bitch," and he stomped my face. And the next thing I know, I woke up. I obviously
Did you get
blacked
knocked
out.
out?
I'm obviously, I guess, yes. And he was passed out on the floor. And I woke up frantic looking for my phone, and I immediately called 911.
Okay. The police arrived on that incident?
Yes, they did.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the injury you sustained as a result of him kicking you?
Stomping, yes.
It was a stomp? With his-
Stomp.
with his
All I
heel?
saw was his heel.
This is, we'd ask that this be, identification you be admitted today.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as U will be received without objection is defense 8.
Was that the next day, or is that a few days later?
That's a couple of days later.
And that's the bruising from the kicking of the eye?
Yes.
Now, the police were called, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to go through these others. I'm showing you identification V, defense. Could you recognize that? You have to speak up.
Yes.
Can you identify that picture?
Yes.
Is that your leg?
Yes.
And is that, was it like the injury to your nape?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the injury you sustained to your nape?
Yes.
Do you remember how that happened?
Yes.
Did you tell the jury?
I was trying to get off of the back porch, and he grabbed me and pushed me, and it was a rock or a really sharp piece of mold from him grabbing me and pushing me onto the ground, and I guess I just happened to hit my knee just right on whatever it was.
Were y'all drinking?
Yes.
Why did he push you?
Because I wanted to get off of the back porch.
He wanted to stay out there?
Yes.
He wanted you to be with him? What's the deal with him wanting to be with you all the time?
Insecurity, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you do your best to please him?
And then some, yes.
All right, I'd like to introduce an evidence identification.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as V will be received into evidence without objection is defense 9.
Now, Ms. Boone, were you treated for this, or did you self-treat? Show the jury now.
No, that was just, I got the first aid kit that I have for my son, and I just cleaned it up.
You what?
I said I got the first aid kit that I had for my son, and I just cleaned it up and put a Band-Aid on it.
All right, I'm showing you identification W. Defense identification. You recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
This is a photograph of my arm.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of the arm with some type of injury?
Yes,
Do you remember this event?
multiple times, yes.
Well, I'm talking about this isolated event where this photograph was taken, the injury you sustained.
Yep,
Who injured your arm?
Jorge Torres,
Do you remember this event?
yes.
Did you tell the jury about it?
This was one of the instances where I would try to pull away from him, and I don't know how my arm started to do this, but from him pulling from this way, how hard he would pull, with me trying to struggle to get away from him, it would leave these bloody, under the skin splotches.
So he wouldn't hit you sometimes, he would just grab you and pull you.
Yes, from me trying to pull away from him, that's the point of it doing this, from me pulling away from him.
Now, this is one of the many times y'all were both intoxicated.
I mean, I can't say for sure that, yes, but whenever it would happen, yes, we would be drinking.
Identification W in evidence.
Okay.
What was pre-marked as W will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 10. You may, sir.
All right, it doesn't look like a wound or anything.
Objection to commentary.
Sustained.
Tell me, I'm sorry, tell me, you said it's just from the grip, him losing his grip?
Yes, it would be from me pulling away from him, and whatever under the skin it was that it was disturbed from the amount of pressure of him holding and then pulling from me would create those on my arms.
Okay. I'm going to show you Defense Exhibit X for identification.
Yes.
And what is that a picture of?
This is a picture of my ear, side of my head.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction
Yes.
of the injury you sustained by Jorge Torres?
Yes.
Do you remember this event?
Yes.
Were you drinking?
I at the time was not drinking.
On this event, you had not consumed any alcohol.
I mean, I may have earlier. This was another, I was in the bed trying to sleep.
Where was George?
Downstairs drinking.
All right, and so you were wanting to go to bed, and he wanted you to stay down there with him?
Yes, I was in the bed.
All right, tell the jury what happened on this event.
I believe this was the instant where I was in the bed and I used to barricade the door with our dresser.
Why didn't you just lock it?
All of the locks were broken in my home.
Why?
They were from George taking them in, including my son's. At one point, I could seek refuge in my son's room, but he broke that one as well.
Well, tell me, explain how that happens. Tell the jury. We can't read your mind.
George wants me, which he has told me numerous times, that I am to be with him at all times and doesn't like to be apart from me or away from me. So whenever it was even just to go to the bathroom sometimes, he would go with me. And you have to understand, I have a 2-story, 900 square foot townhome, so there's not many places to go. So it just happened to be that it would be upstairs or downstairs, or I'd be in a particular room or not. So inevitably.
Did you want some time away?
Yes, I did. Even if it were just him upstairs or me downstairs or vice versa. So I rarely got to sleep. This was one of the instances because I had barricaded the door with our, 200-pound dresser that we had. And then I had my nightstand barricaded up against the bed, to where it was even more difficult from the prior times of him breaking in. And he would, I don't know how he would ever do it, but he would get himself in through the crack of the door that he would be able to wedge the dresser and the nightstand. And he pulled me out of the bed and told me I was going to die. And I believe it's this incident, and punched me, and
Punched you in the side of the head?
yes, in
Was
my
it-
temple and everything.
Was it an open fist or a closed fist, or do you know?
It was fully closed.
Like identification X introduced in evidence?
What was pre-marked as X will be received without objection as Defense Exhibit 11.
Part I'm showing you this exhibit. That's you? Did you get any treatment for that? Medical treatment?
I know the police came, but I don't remember. I remember it hurt for a good solid 2 weeks after that.
Was this one of the incidents where the police were called?
Yes.
do you recognize this photograph, which is identification Y?
Yes.
Was that the date of the incident? The date of this event?
No, it happened prior. I mean, but this picture that was taken of the,
This picture was taken, would have been taken February 24th of 2020?
yes,
And do you recognize that as your close-up facial?
yes,
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how your face looked on February 23rd of 2020?
yes.
What's the significance of this picture?
Again, because I was sleeping, George was upset with me and came in with a metal curtain rod and bent it and snapped it in half and then crunched me in the forehead with it. And then started to beat the furniture that was in the bedroom. This is probably a good month before or after it had happened, before I really do believe that I should have gotten stitches, but I was not allowed to go to the hospital.
Judge, I'd like identification Y introduced into evidence.
It was a gash.
What was pre-marked as Y will be received into evidence without objection as defense 12.
Is that the same curtain rod that you mentioned in the 2-hour interrogation video?
Which they didn't take, yes.
This was photographs that were taken, I guess it would have been the crime scene? Was it the crime scene investigator that came out and took photographs?
I don't remember who it was, but yes, someone did on the day of the incident.
Was it different from the extraction, the phone extraction expert? Was it somebody different?
I think.
But is it this Boone right here?
Yes. And remember, that's a month later.
And then on that same date, they took, same time, they took this photograph as well, which is identification R.
Yes.
All right, and what does that depict?
I believe it's from holding the baseball bat, and
Is that an injury to your hand?
it's a bruise.
Was that taken, February, was it February 23rd, 2020, when the investigators came out, when,
February 24th, I believe.
February 24th? Okay. I'd like to introduce identification R to the evidence.
What was pre-marked as defense R will be received into evidence without objection as defense 13.
Judge, we can publish.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is not a great photograph, copy of the copy. But February 24th of 2020, is that what you were wearing? Is that you?
Yes.
And there's some discoloration up here of your palm. You see that?
I do.
Is that from you jabbing him with a baseball bat?
Sustained.
Do you know how you suffered that injury?
I believe it's from holding the baseball bat.
When you poked him with it?
Yes, trying to get his hand back in.
I'm showing you defense identification N. Just like 5 photographs. Can you look at those? See if you recognize them.
Yes.
And are those fair and accurate depictions
Yes.
as a composite of the events that occurred in relation to George Torres and your TV?
Yes. Yes.
All right, are those stills of a videotape that you took?
Yes.
And is that videotape, was it on your phone?
Yes.
So when law enforcement seized the phone, they would have had access to this video?
I believe so, yes.
And tell me about it.
Lucas liked to watch cartoons and play video games on the big screen, this is the big screen, and I would have to call Brian to come over sometimes to help me figure out the Fire Stick and whatever platform or whatever it was that Lucas was trying to view his shows and video games on. And I don't remember how George found out that Brian had come over. I believe because it was actually fixed and he knew that I didn't know how to do it. Found out that Brian had come over to fix it, and
Was he jealous of Brian?
I don't know if he was jealous of Brian. I think that he had a fear that I somehow would go back to Brian. So I think by Brian helping me with things for Lucas, he just didn't want him to be interacting with me at all.
So Lucas wasn't over here this day, was he?
No.
Brian wasn't over here this day.
He may have been, I can't remember when he actually fixed the television for Lucas.
But y'all were drinking this day.
I know he was for a fact, yes.
Chances are you were.
Probably so, yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
So how did it end up badly?
He accused me of sucking Brian's dick and told me that he was going to break my face with the bat, and that he was going to make me unrecognizable to my son with the bat. And then told me that he's going to destroy my fucking television, and then I was going to remove it from the apartment. And if I didn't, I was going to be, again, unrecognizable to my son.
So did he grab the bat?
Absolutely, he already had that in his hand, and he told me that I had to videotape it.
Did you videotape it voluntarily?
No.
All right, but there is a video, but I'm going to go ahead and ask Judge if I could introduce this identification of these 5 photographs into evidence.
No objection.
Is it O or N?
I have O being a composite with 5 photos, and not having a single photo.
We're moving in O, okay. All right, what was pre-marked as O will be received into evidence without objection as defense 14.
All right, so these are some stills from the video. This was George, that particular day, holding that.
You guys telling me that I'm going to take the television out once he destroys it.
He wanted you to take the television out?
That or I was going to help him, but either way, I was taking it apart and removing it.
And what is this picture of?
In the process of him destroying my television.
While you're videotaping?
Correct.
Is that the result?
No. After that, he ripped it off of the TV stand.
Did you later pass out?
Yep, like he usually does.
What's he drinking then?
I don't know. Vodka and something, I'm sure.
I'm showing you identification N. See if you recognize that.
It's my living room and the stairwell.
All right, was that a photograph taken by a crime scene?
Correct.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of your living room and stairwell?
Yes.
And I'm just trying to introduce this as identification 9 as an exhibit.
No.
It's pre-marked as M, correct?
It's got N.
N, I apologize. What was pre-marked as N will be received into evidence without objection as defendant's 15.
Can you tell us a little bit about this room?
This is my living room. This wall that we have over here with the hearts, that's where we would display all of our artwork. We were in the process of taking it down to add more, so he could continue to be entertained. The bookshelf over here is my son's bookshelf with all of his toys and little guns and musical instruments. He's got his little karaoke machine down here, his guitar. The stand right here with the red bucket on it, that was the television stand. And then my back porch area and the dog bed here.
And then it looks like in front of the bookshelf at the foot of the stairs is that a doggy?
It's a baby gate, but my dogs would wander upstairs sometimes and go to the bathroom sometimes when we couldn't get them out. So I would, at nighttime, or whenever we weren't home, make sure that they didn't go upstairs. And plus Penny was blind.
There's an allegation that you pushed George down the stairs
Apparently,
or got him in the suitcase upstairs and pushed him down the stairs?
supposedly,
Did that occur?
absolutely not.
Is that bookshelf disturbed in any way?
No, nor the plant next to it.
I'm showing you composite, 2 photographs, identification M. Did you look at those 2 and see if you recognize them?
Yes, this is me sitting on the back porch with my dogs. And as you can see that, we are both drinking.
All right, who's taking the picture?
I'm guessing George's, or maybe it's one that Lucas, no, Lucas wasn't over here, so it had to be George.
How can you tell y'all are drinking?
Because there's a cup here, and then he has a beer.
All right. And there's 2 dogs, there's one sitting next to you. Who's that?
That's Penny, she's the blind dog. I used to have to pick her up to put her somewhere so she would stay there because she was unfamiliar with the area, especially since we moved from my marital home to the townhome. So most of the time Penny would be close or next to me.
Who's next to the film?
This is little guard dog Tess. She was the deaf dog. And this is the fence here.
Well, I'll show them that.
Okay, but this is Tess, and then this is deaf, blind. Penny and Tess.
All right, and then the second one.
This is Tess on the back porch, taking a nap. She was never far from me.
All right, when George was sober, how did he treat the dogs?
Nice. I don't know if he was a pet person, but I mean, he was nice. If I needed him to feed them, he would feed them.
Were there times when George was drinking where he would threaten to harm the dogs?
All the time.
All right, you're going to have to tell the jury specifically.
One of the worst threats was Penny being blind. He would actually leave the gate open in the back. He wouldn't threaten me to do it. He would actually do it on nights that I had to go up to sleep or I fled the night before or something. and would tell me that he hoped that I would come back and find her bloated body dead in the pond across the way from our townhome. And Tess was notorious if I wasn't there to go look for me, and would say that he would hope that I would have to scrape up her dead body from the street that was out in front of our apartment complex.
Why was George upset with you? Why was he threatening to harm the dog?
Anything that he could get to try to have some type of hold over me.
Control?
And he knew I loved my dogs very much, especially that they were handicapped.
Were they afraid of him?
And yes, Penny would hear his voice and instantly go underneath the dining room table that we had. Tess was always fractious and very, very quick with his movements, but she was never far away. They never showed their teeth, they never growled. Tess would occasionally bark, but it was very rare. And he used to kick them and just,
For what reason would he kick them?
Penny would try to find me because she's blind.
Speculating in the mind of a dog.
Sustained.
I'd like to move identification M and evidence.
Any objection? Was pre-marked as M will be received into evidence without objection as defense 16.
All right. Can you describe this for the jury?
This is again is our back porch, and this is the fence that I made for the dogs to have a little bit extra space. Penny is next to me. She's the blind dog, and then Tess is down here at guarding the gate.
Are these fake rabbits? Is that
Yes.
in here?
I used to call my son when he was a baby. He was my bunny rabbit.
Objection
so-
relevant.
Overruled.
He was my bunny rabbit, so I used to collect bunny rabbits, and so I have rabbits here and there throughout my house and in my little garden area.
All right, this is the alcohol you are consuming,
Yes.
and this is a close-up of which one?
This is Tess. She's the deaf dog.
How old were these dogs at that time, 2020?
Gosh, maybe 9, maybe 10.
We approach.
Yes. All right, members of the jury, it's 4:03. By show of hands, would you like to take an afternoon break at this point in time? Okay, court sees no hands. We may have to work also a little bit past 5 o'clock, maybe going to between 5:45 and 6 this evening. I know juror third from the right, you may have to make a phone call as to that. Does anyone have any concerns about working a little bit later today till 6 o'clock? If you have those concerns, please raise your hand at this time. All right, court sees no hands. Ma'am, are you in a position to step out to see if you can get assistance with childcare, or is that not an option for today?
I'm
You are? Okay, all right, excellent, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. With that, Mr. Owens, you may continue.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I think one of the jurors raised their hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, juror fifth from the right.
Are we going to get a break before the 5:45 mark? Because if not, then yes, I would like a break now.
Then I tell you what, let's go ahead and take it at this time. We'll give you all a 15-minute recess. It's 4:04. Hang on, don't leave yet. I got to tell you a couple things. It's 4:04. I'll see you back here at 4:20. Same instruction as before. Please don't conduct any independent investigation or research as the person, places, things, or charge involved, and don't have any discussions amongst yourselves or anyone else. We'll see you in a couple minutes. Thank you very much.
Jury exiting